In the quiet hours of reflection, when the noise of daily life fades and the soul turns inward, a single realization can shatter the illusions that bind humanity. Imagine a woman who, after years of futile attempts to reshape the people around her, suddenly sees the hidden architecture of existence. She understands that every face, every conflict, every joy or sorrow in her world is nothing less than her own consciousness, externalized herself, pushed out into living form. This insight does not come as gentle poetry, but as a thunderclap that redirects her entire being. She stops trying to change others and turns relentlessly towards self-transformation. "I am free," she declares inwardly, and in that moment, the seeds of a profound awakening are planted. This is not mere self-help philosophy. It is the living fulfillment of ancient scripture, the 8th chapter of the Gospel of John, where the central declaration rings out like a cosmic bell. "I am the light of the world." This teaching, drawn from the visionary experiences shared in Neville Goddard's profound lectures, reveals a radical truth. The entire drama of human life unfolds within the individual. The vast world is not an independent reality, but a projection of one's own wonderful human imagination, which Scripture personifies as God Himself. To walk this path is to move from bondage to liberation, from the heavy chains of the physical cross to the radiant freedom of divine sonship. What follows is an expansive exploration of this journey, weaving personal vision, biblical symbolism, and practical mysticism into a unified tapestry of awakening. The story begins with a simple letter. A friend writes of her struggles. She had spent considerable energy attempting to alter the behavior and circumstances of those closest to her loved ones whose actions seemed to limit her happiness. Time and again, her efforts met with failure. Frustration mounted until a deeper insight broke through. The whole vast world is herself pushed out. Every person, every event, every seeming obstacle is a reflection of her own inner state. Rather than continuing the exhausting battle against external shadows, she made a decisive shift. She began to work on herself, affirming her own freedom with quiet intensity. She and a close companion discussed the nature of true freedom. What does it mean to be unbound in a world that constantly tugs at the senses? As she persisted in this inner work, a vision came unexpectedly, one that was both disturbing and revelatory. She found herself flat on the ground, her body stretched out in the form of a cross, face upward. Heavy iron chains bound her limbs and torso, anchoring her securely to the earth. The vision struck without warning, leaving her unsettled each time it appeared. Determined to understand, she examined the scene more closely on one occasion. Beyond the chains, she noticed sturdy locks fastening the entire apparatus to the ground. Her physical form was not merely restrained, it was imprisoned, locked in place. Then came the pivotal moment. She felt herself rising out of this chained body. As her consciousness ascended, the body began to sink slowly into the earth from which it had come. In that instant, she grasped the ancient biblical truth. Of the dust it came, and to the dust it returns. The garment of flesh belongs to the material world. It is temporary, earthly, and destined to dissolve. The true self, however, the immortal consciousness, is free to rise above it. From that day onward, the disturbing vision ceased. A profound sense of liberation settled upon her. She had symbolically died to the old identification with the body and been reborn into a higher awareness. This experience occurred on the morning of February 14th, following a deep, paralyzing dream she could not immediately recall. Unable to move or write, she prayed for a symbolic vision to preserve the memory. What emerged was striking: a serpent shedding its old skin, leaving the dead husk behind while emerging renewed and vibrant. Then 2 serpents appeared, one pure white, the other black, and they merged into a single being, white above and black below. A voice declared, "This is the fulfillment of Scripture, specifically the 8th chapter of John." This woman's journey serves as a powerful mirror for every seeker. Her initial failure to change others led her to the core principle. External conditions are projections of internal states. By changing herself, she changed her world. The visions that followed were not random hallucinations, but living symbols of the mystical path outlined in Scripture. The Gospel of John is filled with majestic I am statements, each revealing aspects of divine consciousness. None is more luminous than the opening of the 8th chapter, after the omitted early verses about the woman taken in adultery. "I am the light of the world." He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. In this declaration, the speaker is not pointing to a historical figure alone, but to the universal light of consciousness dwelling within every human being. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. This light is not the physical illumination of sun, moon, or stars. It is the animating awareness that makes perception possible. Without this inner I am, the body would be lifeless clay. With it, the entire world comes alive as a theater of consciousness. One who masters this light gains extraordinary power. By arresting the activity of awareness within, the observer can cause the entire external scene to freeze. People become motionless, like wax figures in a museum or statues in an ancient gallery. Objects hang suspended. The world stands still, proving that its animation depends entirely on the inner light. When the activity is released, life resumes, but it now conforms to the new inner state the observer has impressed upon consciousness. This is not magic or fantasy. It is the direct experience of being the operant power of one's reality. The light is egocentric in the highest sense. Everything radiates from the individual's own wonderful human imagination, which Scripture identifies as God. There is no other cause. Blaming external forces or second causes only creates confusion and delay. The moment one recognizes I am as the sole reality, responsibility returns to its rightful owner. The world becomes plastic, malleable, responsive to inner change. This experience parallels the woman's vision of rising from the chained body. The physical form is a temporary vessel, a cross upon which divine consciousness is temporarily crucified. The body must return to the earth, but the light within is eternal. This experience parallels the woman's vision of rising from the chained body. The physical form is a temporary vessel, a cross upon which divine consciousness is temporarily crucified. The body must return to the earth, but the light within is eternal. Central to this teaching is the reinterpretation of the cross. Popular theology often pictures a wooden structure on a hill outside Jerusalem. In this deeper understanding, the only cross the Christ ever bore is the human body itself. The body is the cross upon which infinite consciousness is nailed. The arms and legs stretched out, the form anchored to the material plane. This is the crucifixion experienced by every individual. The woman saw this dramatically, her body stretched like a cross, chained and locked to the ground. The locks symbolized the deep identification with the senses that keeps consciousness imprisoned in the earthly realm. When she rose out of the body and watched it sink into the dust, she enacted the mystery of death and resurrection. The seed must fall into the ground and die before it can bring forth fruit. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. This process is vividly symbolized by the serpent. In the book of Numbers, Moses lifted up a fiery serpent on a pole in the wilderness so that those bitten by poisonous snakes could look upon it and live. Jesus echoes this. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Scholars often interpret this as a prophecy of the crucifixion on wood. The deeper mystical meaning, however, is far more intimate and transformative. The Son of Man is lifted up not on an external cross, but within the individual. When the moment of awakening arrives, the body is felt to split from top to bottom. A living, pulsing, golden liquid light appears. Consciousness fuses with this light and then ascends the spinal column like a fiery serpent. The motion is violent, circular, and accompanied by a sound like thunder as it enters the skull. In that instant, one knows with unshakable certainty, I am He. This ascent is the true lifting up. It is not a historical event witnessed from afar, but a personal, internal experience that reveals one's identity as the light of the world. The serpent, often misunderstood as a symbol of evil, here represents the creative power of God moving upward from generation into regeneration. The two serpents in the woman's vision, one white and one black, merging into one, illustrate the unification of opposites within consciousness. Light and shadow, spirit and matter, above and below become integrated in the awakened state. The shedding of the old skin represents the release of the old limited identity, allowing the renewed self to emerge. The 8th chapter of John devotes considerable space to the theme of freedom. The speaker declares, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." The listeners protest, "We are descendants of Abraham and have never been in bondage to anyone. How can you say we shall be made free?" They fail to recognize their enslavement. In the same way, modern humanity often believes itself free while remaining chained to the demands of the physical body. No matter how wealthy, powerful, or accomplished a person becomes, they remain a slave to the garment of flesh. They must personally eat, digest, eliminate, rest, and maintain the body's functions. No servant or machine can perform these intimate tasks for them. The body is a demanding master, anchoring consciousness to the earth through its constant needs and limitations. This is the cross one bears the chains and locks the woman sore in her vision. True freedom comes only when the Son sets you free. Here the teaching turns to an Old Testament parallel. In the story of David and Goliath, the king promises to set free the household of the man who defeats the giant. David slays Goliath and stands before the king holding the severed head. The king does not ask about David's deeds, but inquires, "Whose son are you?" The promise is fulfilled by setting the father free. In the mystical sense, freedom arrives when the Son personified as David appears before the individual and calls him Father. This Son is the Christ, the Anointed One, the eternal youth who reveals the fatherhood of God. When David stands before you and you recognize him as your son, while he recognizes you as his father, the chains fall away. You know yourself as God the Father, and only God is truly free. This realization dissolves earthly genealogies and limited identities. One is no longer merely the son or daughter of physical parents, but the father of the divine Son. The body will still return to dust in its appointed time, but the awakened consciousness is liberated into eternity. It no longer reincarnates into the same cycle of limitation, but enters the new age of awakened being. The fundamental sin, according to this chapter, is the failure to believe I am He. The Psalms command, "Be still and know that I am God." Yet humanity projects God outward into the heavens, refusing to accept that the I am within is the only true deity. Without this faith, one dies in sins, meaning one remains trapped in the illusions of separation and limitation. One of the most explosive statements in the chapter comes during the debate about Abraham. The listeners ask how the speaker could have seen Abraham when he is not yet 50 years old. He replies with majestic simplicity, "Before Abraham was, I am." This is not arrogance or blasphemy, but the declaration of eternal consciousness. The I am exists before all creation, before the biblical patriarchs, before the unfolding of time and space. Abraham himself, the man of faith, rejoiced to see this day. Scripture records that the gospel was preached beforehand to Abraham. He walked by faith in the promise that he would become the father of nations despite his advanced age. That faith was faith in I am, the creative power of consciousness. When one dares to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and sleeps in that assumption, one exercises the same faith. There is no need to struggle or manipulate external conditions. The inner light reshapes the outer world effortlessly. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, changing the inner state changes everything. This egocentric view does not promote selfishness but radical responsibility. Since there is only one cause, your own imagination, blaming others or circumstances is futile. Every person, every event, every object in your world bears witness to your inner activity. By stilling the mind and assuming the desired state, you impress a new pattern upon consciousness. When released, the world reanimates in harmony with that new pattern. People will act as though they initiated the change, yet the origin was always within you. The teachings are not abstract mysticism, but a practical manual for daily life. One cause exists, consciousness. To introduce a second cause is to create a devil, an imaginary power outside oneself. To apply this wisdom, clearly define what you desire to be or experience. Enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled as though it is already true. Sleep in that assumption night after night, trusting the inner light completely. Ignore contrary evidence from the senses. Persistence in the inner state will externalize the desired reality. This is faith in God, for God's name is I am. When you say, I am healthy, I am prosperous, I am loved, or I am at peace, and live in the feeling of those words, You are exercising divine creative power. The world may appear solid and independent, but it is malleable. Like the woman who rose from her chained body, you can rise above current limitations by changing self. The caterpillar must dissolve its old form so the butterfly can emerge with wings capable of new dimensions. Similarly, the limited self must die to its old conceptions so the divine self can be born from above. All scripture is fulfilled not as external history but as internal experience. The stories of the Bible are psychological and mystical dramas played out in the consciousness of the individual. The woman was told her visions represented the fulfillment of the 8th chapter of John. She stood on the verge of greater unfoldments. When the Son appears and calls you Father, when the serpent of consciousness ascends the spine, when you know yourself as the light of the world, Scripture is fulfilled in you. You no longer read the Bible as a book about others, you recognize it as your own autobiography written in symbolic language. Scholars without vision debate the Greek, Aramaic, and historical details, yet miss the living truth. Only those who have experienced these states can truly understand the condensed language of the gospel. The words are simple, but their meaning is revealed through personal awakening. A related vision experienced by the teacher's wife illustrates the creative process. She found herself in a beautiful grove where panels, the same word translated as rib in the creation story, became animated. Human figures emerged from the panels and began a graceful dance of life. The scene then shifted to a dramatic, tragic dance which frightened her and caused her to awaken. This vision reveals that the entire world emerges from within. The rib or panel taken from Adam symbolizes the division of consciousness that allows the outer world to appear as independent beings and events. In reality, everything is yourself pushed out, animated by your own light. The dance of life includes both joy and tragedy, but it is all a projection. When consciousness awakens, the figures are seen as expressions of the one reality. The teaching emphasizes that every individual will eventually awaken to this truth. Some are on the verge, drawn consistently to these ideas month after month. Others may seem unprepared, but in the fullness of time, all will be called. The unique pearl of great price is not to be cast before those unready, yet the invitation remains open. When one awakens, one sees others not merely as physical friends or acquaintances, but as expressions of the same divine light. With the inner eye opened, one beholds the radiant, fiery being clothed in human form, the burning one, infinite love personified. The body will return to dust, but the true self, the light of the world, rises into eternity. There is no loss, only transformation. The cross is exchanged for wings. The chained form gives way to liberated consciousness. In the end, the practice is simple yet profound. Turn attention inward. Know that I am is God. Assume the feeling of your desire is already fulfilled. Trust the imagination implicitly, for it is the creative power of the universe. No external force can override it when faith is absolute. The woman who began by trying to change others ended by changing herself and experiencing liberation. Her visions confirmed the ancient promises. The same path is available to all who dare to believe, I am He. As the light of the world, each person authors their own story. The play is egocentric because consciousness is the stage, the actors, and the audience. By mastering the inner light, one moves from slavery to sonship, from darkness to eternal day. This is the fulfillment of Scripture. This is the good news. The kingdom of heaven is within, and the light that illuminates it is your own wonderful I am. May every reader pause in silence now, feeling the truth of these words, and rise in the freedom that belongs to the children of light.